Hello, fellow social workers. Welcome to week 2 of Social Work 310. Hope you're enjoying the class so far. This is an important week. We're talking about a lot of important topics, including economic systems and affirmative action and privilege. And I'm going to address those 3 topics in a short lecture today. Your assignment this week is a discussion about the capitalist economy and whether or not it makes life better or worse for US as well as world citizens. Feel free to get creative in your answers. If you want to include something about how the COVID crisis has impacted the economy and impacted you personally, I would love to hear your stories and insights as far as that's concerned. I know that COVID-19 has definitely impacted everybody in almost every way. And so let's talk a little bit about that in our discussion posts, if you would like to. Let's talk about these 3 topics. Okay, first of all, economic systems. You've noticed that I've put several videos, and I call them supplemental, but feel free to watch all of them. You know, they're not mandatory, but I think they really help you understand these concepts. A lot of you are very academically prone, and you enjoy reading the textbook, which good for you. But for those of you who are more like me and you're more of an audio learner, I think these videos really help. Another tip that I often give my students that worked for me: if you are an audio learner, read your textbook out loud to yourself. Record it and listen to it as you drive and do other things. That's how I got through undergrad as well as graduate school. Let's start out talking a little bit about economic systems. You have a great video about that in your module, and it answers the question, what is an economic system? What are economic systems? And it says that there's 3 main ideas centered around economic systems: what we produce, how we produce it, and who gets it. So what has COVID-19's effect been on that? I think that's just an interesting question to ask as we are studying all of these concepts this week. This video talks about a free market versus communism, and the idea that there's no such thing as a completely free market, that we need government regulations. And there is a spectrum of government involvement in every economic system. And of course, spectrum means like a rainbow. A rainbow is a spectrum. So we have, on one end of the spectrum, we have red, and then we have orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, right? So on the red end, we might have a more socialist type culture where there's a whole lot of government involvement. And then on the purple end, we have not so much. And I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are about that. COVID's effect has been interesting. If you think about what has happened in our culture and our economy since COVID has hit. So here we are, people are stuck at home. A lot of, if you just look at like the average family where there's children in school, so if kids are not going back to school, they're not needing the clothes or the school supplies. Now, obviously, there's still a need for school supplies if we're homeschooling our kids, but maybe there's not the same. I know that my 14-year-old niece has talked about how she hasn't really been that interested in back to school clothes shopping. So how has that affected the economy? How about what has happened with restaurants? You know, we don't even go out to eat right now, currently, because of the fear of COVID-19. And so the trickle-down effect of all this has been disastrous in some cases. Just on the news this morning, they were talking about the fact that here in Las Vegas, 47% of the people who live here are renters. And there's been a hold on kicking the renters out, but that is being done away with September 1st. And so what's going to happen to some of these people that maybe don't have an income? They've lost their jobs because of the strip shutting down. There's been so many businesses that have closed. And so how has that impacted what we produce, how we produce it, and who gets it? So what will manufacturers do? Is there a glut of things like school clothing, backpacks, that kind of thing that are just not needed? And so those are going to be, what's going to happen to that stuff? How is what's produced going to be changed? And how it's produced, how is that going to be changed if people need to be 6 feet apart? And then who gets it? That, who can afford to buy products? So there's a lot of interesting ideas in terms of economic systems and what has happened in a free market society because of the coronavirus. Let's talk a little bit about affirmative action. Now, this video that I have for you, it's a pretty short one. It might be a little tricky to watch it. Be sure that you click on the title, and that's how you can watch it. Affirmative action, according to this video, and it's very true, it's been a political topic. Affirmative action, and there's a lot of people who feel pretty strongly about it. When I lived in East Cleveland, and I was one of the only Caucasian people in my neighborhood, so it was a very interesting experience. I feel like it really helped me grow in a way I didn't know I needed to. My children were some of the only white kids in the schools, and it was really good for them to experience basically being a minority. I had a really good friend who was African American and the mother of 3 little children, and she was a single mom, and she applied to medical school. She was very surprised when she was accepted because she didn't feel like her academic background was as strong as other applicants. She didn't feel like her experience was as strong. But what did she have? Because of affirmative action, she was African American as well as being female. And so that gave her 2 boosts up in being able to be accepted into medical school. Today, she is a practicing physician. She's able to provide really well for her family, and she's making a difference in her culture. So affirmative action it's a very interesting concept. There are those who speak against it because they feel like it makes us separate, and so it's an interesting concept. I'd love to hear your thoughts as you write papers this semester about that subject. Let's talk a little bit about privilege and what that means. I really love the video that I provided for you about privilege. And it tells the story of a professor who taught privilege by having each student crumple up a piece of paper, and then the professor said he put a recycle bin at the front of the classroom and said, now, those of you who can get your piece of paper into this recycle bin, you are representing the entire culture, and those who can get your piece of paper in there by remaining in your seat, those are the people in our culture who have an opportunity to be in the top level of money making, in the more privileged people in our society, the more successful people. And it was interesting how in this classroom example, it was the people in the back who complained. It was not the people in the front. And what was said in this video is the people in the front had a hard time seeing their own privilege. So let's take a look at that. And I think that really helps us understand what privilege is all about. If you have not yet read The White Backpack of Privilege, please do so. I know I assigned it in Social Work 101. Refer back to that if you have any questions about really understanding it. Privilege is kind of a buzzword nowadays, but I think a lot of people don't really comprehend where it came from. And that essay, A Backpack of Privilege, is what it's all about. I think I'll go ahead and put it on your module this week. So have a great week. Enjoy your reading, enjoy your videos. Feel free to text, email, or call me if you have any questions. And I look forward to reading your papers, reading your discussion posts, and be safe and stay healthy.